Have you noticed this paradox? The greatest turning points in life rarely arrive after years of struggle, thousands of hours of meditation, or endless affirmations. True change often lands in a single, quiet moment so subtle most people miss it. Albert Einstein is often quoted as saying, "Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler." The quantum shift is a vivid testament to that. It isn't born of complexity more often. It's triggered by simplicity. In quantum science, superposition suggests a particle can exist in multiple states until observed. In other words, your possibilities already coexist. You don't need to manufacture them with more effort. You need to stop forcing, choose a state to embody. In that pause, the quantum field, the invisible substrate of possibilities, tends to respond. Eckhart Tolle reminds us, simplicity is the essence of the universe. When you are present in this moment, you align with that simplicity. And because it's so simple, the ego resists. Be honest. Have you believed change requires years of rigor, that you must meditate long enough, read enough, suffer enough to be worthy of a breakthrough? We grow up believing enlightenment must be hard. So when something comes easily, we suspect it's wrong. Yet a quantum shift doesn't arrive when you push a little harder. It arrives when you stop. When you stop forcing, stop chasing, stop proving you're enough. In that surrender, the field tends to meet you. Society glorifies effort. From childhood, we're told, no work, no reward. These beliefs aren't wrong, but they can tie worth to complexity. Faced with a simple path, we doubt, we fear. If it's easy, what was all that struggle for? This shocks the ego, the self that thrives on stories of effort. If things are truly simple, the ego loses its stage to perform. I endured, therefore I'm worthy. And it whispers, not enough, try harder. Notice yourself, notice. How often have you tasted a calm flow, then got uneasy and jumped back into frantic action only to burn out? You were near the shift, but you didn't trust simplicity. Simplicity threatens the ego because it strips away the complex narrative we cling to. Without that shell, there is stillness and truth. Quiet, clear and sometimes terrifying. Yet in that stillness, a door opens to a new timeline where a version of you already lives, waiting for your courage to step in. So the real question isn't, can you endure more? It's, will you allow change to be easy, often? What blocks the leap isn't lack of effort, it's resistance to simplicity. Consider this every day. You might repeat dozens of positive affirmations, write pages of your desires, or spend hours visualizing your dream house, ideal job, or perfect relationship. But have you ever wondered, if I'm doing all this, why aren't the results coming? The answer lies here. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you say. It mirrors exactly who you are at an energetic level. You might declare, I am wealthy. But if deep inside you're trembling over next month's bills, the vibration you're truly emitting is one of lack, not abundance. You might meditate and repeat, I'm ready for love. But if you're unconsciously afraid of abandonment, the signal the universe receives is fear, not openness. The universe isn't fooled by your words or the images you try to project. It always listens to your baseline frequency, the deepest state within you, even if you're unaware of it. Think of it like a radio. You can label it jazz station, decorate it with images of instruments, or even plaster jazz 24/7 in bold letters. But if the radio is tuned to a noisy news channel, no matter the label, listeners will only hear news. Your life works the same way. The universe doesn't respond to the label you put on yourself. It responds to the frequency you're actually broadcasting within. So, the foundational and most critical skill is self-awareness. This isn't just jotting down thoughts in a journal or having occasional moments of reflection. It's the ability to observe yourself in the moment, as if you're both the one experiencing and the one watching from outside. When you're anxious, you know you're anxious. When you're reacting, you recognize it as a reaction, not the truth. And most importantly, you observe without judgment. Typically, we're quick to label, "Oh, I'm being too negative, I'm wrong, I need to fix this." But that judgment itself creates more energetic chaos. True self-awareness means seeing what's happening in your mind and body without rushing to conclusions or forcing change. You're like someone observing the sky. When clouds roll in, you don't shout, "The sky's wrong." It should be sunny. You simply acknowledge today is cloudy. And with enough patience, the clouds pass on their own. It's the same with energy. When you're still enough to observe fear without trying to suppress it, the fear dissolves. When you notice you're emitting a frequency of lack, you don't need to force yourself to act abundant. You just need to be honest. This is my true signal. From that honesty, your energy begins to shift. This is why many people, despite diligent practice, don't see significant change. They use willpower to perform a certain frequency while their unconscious sends a different signal. And the quantum field, always honest, reflects only that unconscious signal. To truly shift, you don't need new techniques. You need a new level of honesty. Honesty with your own vibration. Ask yourself when no one's around, when you don't have to prove anything, what's your true state? That's the signal the universe is receiving. And it's from this starting point that the journey of a quantum shift truly begins. Once you start seeing your true signal clearly, the next step is learning to refine it. This is where many people get confused. Refining doesn't mean eliminating negative emotions or forcing yourself to always be happy and positive. It means tuning your frequency, like an artist tuning a stringed instrument to the perfect pitch. So when it's played, the sound resonates clearly, free of distortion. To achieve this, there are 3 energy skills you need to practice. First skill, radical responsibility. Most people spend their lives searching for external reasons to explain their internal state. We grow up believing that life happens to us, so naturally. Our reflex is to blame circumstances. "I failed because my boss is too harsh. I'm lonely because I haven't met the right person. I'm stressed because society is too demanding." These explanations feel comforting in the moment, because they relieve us from looking deeper. But here's the hidden cost. Every time you stop there, you hand over your power. You unconsciously tell your nervous system, "I am not in charge of my frequency. Something outside of me is." Radical responsibility is not about self-blame or guilt. It's about reclaiming authority over the one thing you can truly influence: your vibration. It's the shift from being a reactor to becoming a creator. When you take radical responsibility, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and instead ask, "What frequency within me is this reflecting back? Why does this matter?" Because the quantum field doesn't mirror your circumstances. It mirrors your state of being. When you say, "I can't feel abundant because my bank account is empty," you confuse cause and effect. Your bank account is already a reflection of the frequency you've been broadcasting. Change the broadcast, and the reflection eventually shifts. Let's ground this in a practical example. Imagine a relationship ends. The default human story is, "They betrayed me. They weren't who I thought they were." That story keeps you stuck because it externalizes the entire event. Radical responsibility invites a deeper question. What within me resonated with this pattern? What part of me still believes love must come with pain or abandonment again? This is not blame. It's awareness. The moment you see that belief, you create space to release it. That shift in frequency is what magnetizes a healthier connection next time. On a biological level, this practice rewires your nervous system. When you remain in victimhood, your body stays trapped in stress chemistry cortisol, adrenaline, fight or flight. You repeat the same survival loops, and the field has no choice but to mirror them. But when you take responsibility, you signal safety to your body. I am not powerless here. I can choose a new response. That choice regulates your system, restores coherence, and sends out a clear, magnetic signal. Energetically, victimhood is loud but incoherent. It screams, it demands, but its vibration is scattered. Ownership, by contrast, is quiet but laser-focused. It doesn't shout, yet it draws reality into alignment, like a tuning fork pulling surrounding frequencies into harmony. This is why people who take radical responsibility appear grounded, magnetic, and even lucky to others. They're not lucky. They're coherent. In essence, radical responsibility is freedom. Because when you stop outsourcing your energy to people or circumstances, you realize nothing outside has the power to dictate your frequency. That realization is the beginning of mastery. Second skill, accountability states. If radical responsibility is about reclaiming ownership of your signal, accountability states are about protecting and sustaining it. It is the ability to hold your frequency steady, no matter what is happening around you. This may sound simple, but it is one of the hardest things to practice. Most people live in reaction mode. They adjust their inner world to match the outer world. They say, "I'll feel secure when I see more money in my bank account," or "I'll feel loved when the right person shows up." In other words, they wait for external proof before allowing themselves to feel the state they desire. But this is backwards. The quantum field doesn't bring you proof. First, it mirrors the signal you already hold. Quantum shifters reverse this order. They learn to embody the feeling of security even before the evidence arrives. They practice the vibration of love even when the person hasn't appeared yet. They choose coherence before circumstances give them permission. This isn't denial. It's alignment. It's saying to the field, "This is who I am, regardless of what's around me." Think of it like training your nervous system. If you only feel safe when conditions look safe, your biology stays in survival mode. But when you choose to feel safe before conditions confirm it, your body relaxes into trust. That coherence becomes a magnetic signal, and the field must reflect it. Here's a practical image. Imagine you are a musician in an orchestra. If you keep changing your note and rhythm to match every offbeat sound around you, the music dissolves into chaos. But if you hold your tone steady, eventually, the other instruments align with you. Your frequency works the same way when you sustain it long enough. Life has no choice but to harmonize with you. Think about relationships. If you hold the vibration of neediness, waiting for someone else to prove your worth, you attract partners who confirm that lack. But if you cultivate the vibration of self-worth and love within yourself first, you naturally become a magnet for those who resonate with that frequency. Or consider finances. If you only feel abundant once the numbers go up, you're stuck in a cycle of scarcity. But when you hold the vibration of abundance now, by appreciating what already exists, by embodying generosity, even in small ways, you send out a frequency that calls more abundance in. energetically. Accountability states are like anchors. They root your frequency so deeply that external storms cannot shake it. And here's the paradox: the steadier you hold your inner state, the faster the external world shifts to match it. Because the quantum field always seeks coherence. In short, accountability states are about consistency. They train you to show up as the version of yourself you've chosen, even when evidence seems to suggest otherwise. It's not about pretending. It's about practicing alignment until it becomes your default tone. And when your tone is stable, reality has no choice but to play in harmony. Third skill: letting go of judgment. This is perhaps the hardest skill because we're so used to labeling everything. This is good. That is bad. This means I'm succeeding. That means I've failed. But the quantum field doesn't operate linearly. Sometimes. A day when you feel exhausted and think you're falling apart is actually the old energy collapsing to make way for a new frequency. If you rush to conclude everything's gone wrong, you freeze the shift in its tracks. Letting go of judgment doesn't mean becoming indifferent. It means allowing experiences to pass without rushing to assign them a verdict. You let yourself feel sad without concluding, I'm weak. You let stagnation happen without declaring, everything's ruined. When you stop labeling, you create space for natural change to unfold. These three skills, radical responsibility, maintaining accountability states, and letting go of judgment, are the keys to sustaining a clear frequency. When combined, you no longer need to chase doing more. You become a clear, steady energy field. And in that clarity, a quantum shift is no longer a distant dream, it becomes the natural outcome. There's a phase almost everyone experiences before a true quantum shift. It's not what you might expect. Instead of feeling elated or energized, many feel exhausted, lost, or even doubtful of themselves. It's like standing in a long hallway, the door behind you is closed. But the one ahead hasn't opened yet. You're caught between two worlds. The old no longer fits, but the new isn't clear. In that void, your mind starts to panic. You might ask yourself, am I on the wrong path? Why do I feel so empty, so unsteady if things are changing? Why does it feel like everything's falling apart? This is the threshold. The point where most people veer off, turn back, or give up. They mistake the turbulence of recalibration for a sign of failure. But the truth is the opposite if you're feeling unsteady. If everything seems uncertain, you may be very close to a quantum leap. Imagine tuning a radio to your favorite station. As you turn the dial away from the old frequency, the sound becomes static, distorted, full of noise. That's not a mistake, it's just the necessary transition before locking on to the new frequency. Similarly, when your old energy begins to dissolve, the beliefs, habits, and emotions tied to your former self lose their grip. You feel empty, even anxious, because the old ego has nothing left to cling to. This isn't collapse, it's deconstruction, making space for a new frequency. The problem is, the ego hates emptiness. When there's nothing to hold on to, it creates fear. It whispers, something's wrong. Go back. Do more. Try harder. If you believe it, you'll be pulled back into the old loop. This is where staying in tune becomes critical. Staying in tune doesn't mean doing more, it means being more present. Breathe deeply. Acknowledge the chaos in your mind. Observe the emotions rising without labeling them. This is when you need the courage to sit still in uncertainty, without running or clinging. Think of learning to ride a bike. At first, you're used to walking safe. Familiar. But when you start pedaling, there's a wobbly phase where you feel like you might fall. The old way walking is gone. The new way cycling isn't steady yet. If you panic and give up, you'll never know the joy of speeding along on two wheels. But if you persist, accepting a few stumbles, one day you realize you're riding effortlessly. That's the threshold of a quantum shift. It always comes with unsteadiness before the new stability emerges. Most importantly, remember that the universe doesn't judge you by fleeting fears, but by your ability to hold your frequency amid them. If you don't rush to label the turbulence as a mistake, but instead breathe through it and move with it, the quantum field will begin to reorganize in that stillness. The new frequency is approaching not because you forced it, but because you've become ready to embody it. The threshold is a silent test. Do you have the patience to stay in uncertainty? Or will you give up and return to the familiar? Choose to stay. Because in that unsteady void, the door opens. And when it does, you'll realize you were never failing. You were simply being recalibrated to align with a new reality. As you walk through the stages of this journey, you'll come to a truth so simple, it baffles the ego. You don't need to chase change. You are the change. A quantum shift was never an external goal to pursue. It's always been a return inward, to the original, clear state that was already there. Let me repeat, the universe doesn't respond to the words you speak, care about the lists of wishes you write, or get impressed by how hard you've tried. It simply mirrors the frequency you carry, the state you consistently embody from within. When you truly become the version of yourself you aspire to be, not pretending, not forcing, but simply being present in it, the universe has no choice but to rearrange itself to match you. What does this mean? It means instead of waking up each morning thinking, I must strive to become, you wake up and remember, I already am. When you cultivate safety within your own heart, that safety will gradually reflect outward through new opportunities, relationships, and experiences. When you hold peace amid chaos, that peace becomes a magnet, drawing realities that align with it. Imagine walking into a room. You don't say much. You don't need to prove yourself. But your energy, your steadiness, your calm, your clarity is instantly felt by everyone. That's when you stop chasing attention, and attention naturally finds you. You stop seeking validation, and validation comes on its own. This isn't magic. It's just the quantum field's natural response to a stabilized frequency. This is the difference between searching and living. Searchers believe there's a gap between them and what they desire. Those who live the change know there is no gap. Every version of you already exists in the quantum field. You don't need to build it from scratch, you just need to tune into it. Like finding a radio station. You don't create the channel, you simply dial into its frequency. This also means you don't need to fake positivity when you're sad, or wear a mask of happiness when you're in pain. A quantum shift doesn't ask you to deny any emotion. It only asks that you don't identify with it. You can feel sad, but know you are not sadness. You can feel angry, but recognize that beneath the anger is a part of you, yearning for love. When you hold space for all experiences without letting them define you, that's energetic maturity. Then, you'll reach a pivotal realization: life is no longer a chase. It becomes a mirror. Every person you meet, every situation you encounter, is simply a reflection of the frequency you carry. When you change how you show up, the mirror changes instantly. So, if there's one message to carry forward, it's this: you are already the leap. Not tomorrow, not when you're better, not when you've checked off some spiritual checklist. right now, in this moment. You hold the clear, peaceful, powerful version of yourself you've been seeking. The quantum shift isn't ahead of you. It's right here. And when you dare to embrace that truth, your life will never be the same.